Thanks for joining us again for another Connect to the Capitol Extra. The House of Representatives version of the state's $14.6 billion budget included a reduction of the state's tax rate down to 6%, while also setting aside $200 million for tax relief.
Earlier this week, lawmakers made clear what that tax relief was for when they introduced a bill to bring major tax changes to the state of South Carolina. A proposal to introduce a flat tax of 3.99%.
Here to explain everything this proposed change in the state's tax code will mean for South Carolina is the Speaker of the House, the Republican from Sumter, Speaker Murrell Smith.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for joining us on this Connect to the Capitol Extra.
Pleasure to join you.
So what exactly is included in your tax reform proposal?
Well, it's two components, and the first component is we are switching from federal taxable income of how your tax is calculated or begin to calculate for deductions to adjusted gross income. So what the problem we've had in the state for a long time is that Washington, D.C.'s tax policy is adopted by South Carolina automatically, and then we have our own state tax deductions, which has created some inequity in our tax system, and there has been an inequity on who's paying taxes and those who are not. So 44% of the wage earning individuals in South Carolina are not paying taxes. So that's the first step, is that we move it to adjusted gross income with the appropriate South Carolina deductions from there. And the next step is we abandon our progressive tax rate that we have, which we have a 3% and a 6%, and we go now to a flat rate, and that would be 3.99%, which is of those tax-paying of those states that have a tax, that would be the lowest tax in the country right now.
So there have been major tax changes that have happened over the last several years. We were at 7% in this whole tiered system that was confusing for just about everybody. We've now, over the last 4 or 5 years, you've dropped that down and saved taxpayers, what's close to $50 billion?
Well, over the years, with property tax decreases and with sales tax exemptions, and we don't tax groceries or medicine any longer, and so all those have added up, plus our income tax reductions has been $50 billion since 1995 when the Republicans took over the South Carolina House of Representatives.
So now we're talking about, we're going to be at 6% in this coming fiscal year, this next tax year, but you're now talking about dropping it 2 more percent. So why do we need to do this, and why do we need to do it now?
Well, we need to do it now because it's a competitiveness issue. It's a competitiveness issue for us in economic development and bringing jobs to South Carolina, but it's also a competitiveness issue with our neighboring states. Right now, all our neighboring states, Georgia and North Carolina, have over the past years precipitously dropped their rates, and they have gone below 5%. Georgia's right at 5%, a little bit above right now. North Carolina is a little bit below, and both of them have the goal of reducing it all the way down into the 3 or 4% for Georgia and 2.5% for North Carolina. And so it's important for us to realize that we have the highest tax in the Southeast and nearly the highest tax in the country. And so the way we need to do this is to lower that tax, broaden our base, and flatten our rate. And that's what we proposed here.
And that makes perfect sense. And it seems like you aren't done competing yet either, because you have the aspiration, the goal to bring it down even lower. How is this tiered tax plan going to work to bring us down to that 2.5%?
Yes, what we have proposed there is that we would have every year, if we have 5% growth in the state budget, which we've had a lot higher growth than that over the past 5 years, but it would allow you, it would automatically require you to reduce your tax rate by $200 million, which will be a little bit over a 1 to 2 point decrease every year. So our goal is to continue that until we reach the rate of 2.49, and then that would be the rate where we are. And then ultimately the goal is that we need to join Florida, Tennessee, and many other states, Louisiana, and now Mississippi, with the goal of eliminating our income tax.
That makes a level of competitiveness that puts us on tier. We've had a lot of, as the phrase is, we've had a lot of U-Hauls coming into South Carolina. As a matter of fact, U-Haul says we're one of the fastest growing states. We also had a pretty large budget that you passed this time around, but it's because we have so much growth. So do you think that this is going to have that big of an impact on our economy and continue that level of growth?
Absolutely. We have done a great job under Governor McMaster's leadership of recruiting jobs to South Carolina. The one thing that we have not had as much success as we would like would be recruiting corporate headquarters to South Carolina. Bringing those individuals here, the high wage earners and the ones that really run the corporations to South Carolina, and that is really because, in my opinion, that we have the highest tax rate, because when they look to relocate, they're going to take in consideration what's that state's tax rate and what's the competitive and your neighbors. And with Georgia almost a percent below we are, in Georgia and North Carolina about 2%, in Tennessee not taxing income, that is a real competitiveness issue for us in the Southeast.
So as you think about things moving forward, you've got this bill. It's going to, I have no doubt that you'll get it through the House fairly quickly. Do you feel like the Senate's going to be supportive of this concept?
Well, the beauty of this is, again, led by Governor McMaster as his 3 C's: collaborate, communicate, and coordinate. Maybe I'm getting them wrong. You never get them all right.
But they change it.
Yeah,
they change who you're talking to.
But at that rate, we spent an inordinate amount of time of all of us working together. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to adopt exactly the plan that's introduced in the Senate, but we had the goal when we started in 2022 and reduced that rate from 7% to 6%. And over time, we collapsed we had 5 brackets then, and we collapsed all but 2. And our goal back then was we were getting ourselves situated to get away from the progressive income tax and to have a flat tax. And so this real goal here that we all agreed upon, is to abandon the federal taxable income as a starting point and do an adjusted gross income. And with that concept, that brought us all together in trying to get a low rate. Are there ways that we can maybe find a lower rate than what we propose in this bill? I hope so, and we'll try our best to find it. But we are united in the fact that we want to bring our rate at below 4% and below North Carolina and Georgia right now.
Mr. Speaker, as you connect with your constituents, what is the feedback you're hearing on this? And do people understand the good that this can bring the state?
I think people are, in South Carolina, to get into the weeds of this a little bit, we have a 6% tax rate, but the effective tax rate is 2.85%. So really that means that we have a sticker price and then we have the discount in your tax return. That's by the federal taxable income starting point. So this brings us more in line with the sticker price, with the true effective rate, and then hopefully that will bring us down below our effective rate, where every South Carolinian will pay the same rate, and it'll be a low rate.
And that still, with more people coming into the state looking to do more recruitment, that actually expands, when you have a broader base, that expands the taxable income that the state will then be receiving?
It absolutely does, and that's the goal in any tax. There are winners and losers in every tax system. And so what the beauty of this is everybody's treated the same, rather than the federal government telling us who we can tax and who we can't tax. And South Carolina will now make that decision, and everybody will pay taxes. And the beauty of a flat tax is those who earn less income pay less taxes. Those who earn more income will pay more taxes. But everybody's going to pay for the use of the South Carolina state government, and that's the way it should be. I mean, all tax experts, you think of all the think tanks. We had Grover Norquist with Americans for Tax Reform come to our press conference to say this is the fairest tax that you could do, and this is monumental and historic tax policy change in the state of South Carolina.
So it's about competitiveness, but at its core, it's also about fairness.
That's right.
Yes.
Fairness. That's what we say. We want a flat, fair tax. And we've been having that goal. We've batted it around. I've served in the General Assembly now. This is my 25th session, and we've debated this every year and trying to find a way. And the only way to do it is to bring us away from the federal taxable income and to the adjusted gross income, and then continue to control our growth. and return those extra dollars to the taxpayers.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us on a Connect to the Capitol Extra,
Sure do.
and to help people to understand really what's going on, because this goes beyond just the headlines to the real meat of everything that's going on. So thanks so much for making this a part of your day today.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here with you.
And we will always have more. And as this bill makes its way through the State House, we will keep you up to date right here on Connect to the Capitol.